Here.
Here.
Here, everyone please rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Motion passes. Next item is the motion to acknowledge the minutes of the January 13, 2020 meeting.
I'll move it.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is to open the public portion of the meeting in order to welcome any comments that people may have with respect to the agenda items.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. If there are any comments here from the public, tonight, then please come up to the podium to address any of the items on the agenda. Please state your name and identify that you're a resident of the town of Wappinger. Okay. Let's see.
Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Now we'll go into the discussion section of the meeting, and there's going to be an introduction by Christina on Rebuilding Together. She requested an opportunity to talk about the services that they offer in Dutchess County, and so Christina, please come on up.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Like most people, I'm getting over a cold, so if my throat gets scratchy, I'll have my water here. Thank you all for having me. My name is Christina Borick. I'm the Executive Director of Rebuilding Together, Dutchess County. Rebuilding Together is the nation's leading nonprofit working to preserve affordable home ownership by providing no-cost home repairs and accessibility modifications to income-qualified homeowners. Our vision is safe homes and communities for everyone, and our mission is repairing homes, revitalizing communities, and rebuilding lives. And I'd like to start out by having you think about what home means to you and what you think of when you think of home. And for those of you in the audience, please participate. So maybe you think about your family being around the table for a meal, or everybody enjoying a movie. We just got over the holidays, enjoying your home around the holiday with those that you love. But for so many of our neighbors, their home is a sense of constant source of worry and really feeling like they're in an unsafe or unhealthy environment. We've served homeowners that are worried about, will it rain tonight? Will I have to stay up all night to empty the buckets from the rain that's coming through my ceiling? Will my grandson have another asthma attack because of the plaster walls that are forming dust in our house and causing those asthma attacks? Will I be able to cook for my family? My stove is on the fritz and maybe isn't working all that well. Especially in the wintertime, so many people are worried about their heat source and whether or not their furnace is going to hold out for one more year. We are not alone in this country. Over 2.6 million low-income Americans struggle with the health and economic implications of unsafe and unhealthy housing. And we're so very pleased to be here in Dutchess County to help homeowners with these deferred maintenance and health and safety issues within their home. We've been here for 28 years. We were founded in 1992 here in Dutchess County as Christmas in April. I know a lot of you in the room maybe remember us by that name. We are a part of an affiliate network of 130 Rebuilding Togethers across the country with the same mission of repairing homes, revitalizing communities, and rebuilding lives. And we are a great resource here in Dutchess County. In our 28-year history, we've provided over 900 home repairs for Dutchess County residents. We've engaged over 14,000 volunteers. And we look at the market value of the work that we do, not only the materials that we purchase, but also the skilled labor and the volunteer labor that goes into those projects. So far in our 28-year history, we've invested over $7.1 million back into our community. So home truly is where the heart is, and for too many Americans, it's also where health risks are. Americans spend about 90% of their time indoors. 2/3 of that time is in their own home. So it's really important that our homes are not only safe, but are a healthy environment. So we take a whole house approach when we look at the homes that we serve. The work that we do is based on science and 25 critical home repairs and safety priorities. And some of those priorities, I'll go through just a couple of them. Keep it dry. As you can imagine, in this part of the country, roofs are a big issue. Moisture coming into the home because of that, but also moisture from just a leaky pipe can also create mold in an unhealthy environment. So repairs include roof and flashing, gutters and downspouts, grading away from the foundation, and repairing plumbing. Keep it contaminant-free. Contaminants and pests can also be asthma triggers. I mentioned mold being an asthma trigger, but certainly, and plaster and dust like that. But contaminants are also asthma triggers. Other contaminants that we see a lot of, that you hear a lot of is carbon monoxide, the silent killer. We certainly install carbon monoxide detectors in all of the homes that we serve, as well as smoke detectors. And then lead exposure. Most of our housing stock was built in the 1970s or before that, so the majority of them do have lead paint in them, and that can be really dangerous, especially if there are children in the home. And then one other priority that I'll highlight is our keep it safe, and this is really all encompassing. It can really be accessibility modifications like wheelchair ramps and grab bars, and making sure tripping hazards are removed from the home. But it can also be things like I've mentioned, making sure that there's smoke alarms in the home, carbon monoxide alarms, electrical hazards. We see a number of electrical hazards, again, with the aging housing stock that we have here in Dutchess County. So we have a couple of programs. As I mentioned before, they are no cost to the homeowners we serve. Our large-scale repair program is our Rebuilding Day program. We typically do those projects with volunteers in April and October. We'll do up to 10 projects in a single day, engaging hundreds of volunteers across our county. So that's our flagship program. We do take on larger scale projects where we're engaging skilled volunteers or contractors throughout the year as well. Through that program, average market value of those projects is about $25,000. So taking on some pretty large scale things like roofs and windows and furnaces and the like. And then we have a small-scale repair program called our Handyman program. This is a year-round program where we take on some of the smaller things that maybe could become bigger things or could be a real safety hazard. So grab bars, handrails, maybe just the front steps are a little unsafe for somebody to come in out of their home, electrical repairs, small-scale things like that that can be dealt with in a day or less by a small team. We're happy to report that we have partnered with the Office for the Aging on this program, our Handyman program, and they're helping to not only refer individuals to us, but also to offset the cost of the repairs that we're doing in the home. So we're really excited about that, and certainly encourage you to refer people that are 60 or older to us for that program. And then we have a Community Strong program, which is our nonprofit repair program. So I encourage you, if you have nonprofits that own their buildings in your community, that are deferring maintenance on their buildings, much like our homeowners are, because they're trying to put all of their critical resources into their programs. We do provide repairs for nonprofit facilities, much like we do for our homeowners. So safety issues, just general, deferred maintenance, as I mentioned. So please do think about individuals or groups within your community that could benefit from that. And then finally, our smallest home repair program is our Home Safety and Fire Prevention program. We launched this 3 years ago in partnership with the American Red Cross, where we install 5 things that are on our 25 priority checklist: smoke alarms, fire extinguishers, CO alarms, reflective house numbers to aid in emergency response identification of the home, and then exterior motion activated lights. So those 5 things, we will come in, we do those projects throughout the year. It's a really simple application. It's available on our website, rtdutchess.org. And we will come in and do those things throughout the year, and we typically do them in clusters. So if you have a number of individuals in Wappingers that apply for that program, we'll do them all on the same day. So how does one qualify for our programs? I mentioned there's an income eligibility. It's based on HUD's area median income. It's a sliding scale depending on the number of people that live in the home. But to give you a sense of eligibility, last year HUD's number for a household of 2 was 60,400. We also serve only owner-occupied residents that own their home in Dutchess County. And then we ask that if they have a mortgage, that it's up to date and that their taxes are up to date and that they maintain a homeowner's insurance policy. The application for our large-scale projects opens up once HUD comes out with their numbers. It should be available this spring and it'll be on our website. And we take those applications for our large-scale repairs through the end of September for the following year's projects. This year we plan to do about 20 of those projects, those large-scale projects. For our home safety and fire prevention and our handyman programs, those applications are also on our website, rtdutchess.org, or individuals can call our office at 454-7310, and we can talk to them about eligibility and send out an application. We do those projects year-round. So that's who we are, and I appreciate you allowing me to inform you and your constituents a little bit more about our programs. And certainly, if we take on any projects in your community this year, we will certainly let you know. Any questions of me?
Have we had any interest, Jessica, from our seniors with respect to this?
We have them in about once a year.
Yes, I know.
For
Yeah.
our speaker. So they contact the organization directly after they're given all the information when the organization comes to visit.
Okay. Yes, Bridget?
Hi. I used to work on the zoning board of appeals for the town, and we had a number of seniors come in who needed help with their property assessments, and they couldn't afford their taxes or whatever. That might be another source of individuals that could use help with repairs and stuff. And they would say,
I see.
this needed to be done, that needed to be done, I can't afford it with taxes, they can't go up, So that might be somewhere else to look.
Certainly, and every year we do, when the applications come back out for our Rebuilding Day program, we do send a mailer to all municipalities as well as the assessors. So the supervisors, the clerk, and the assessors will receive our application, and we encourage all municipalities to put what our services or our application on your website, which I believe you have.
I have
Yes.
a question. This would be something that would be advantageous to our people to be on our website, your information when it comes out. We could link to
I
it.
believe it is.
I believe you have a link to
Yeah,
it.
I
Our-
believe we have a
I
link.
I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that it's
Okay.
out there,
Yeah.
and for the people that don't have email,
Right.
just to make sure the information's at the senior center so they have it 24/7.
Yeah, we have a flyer and a card that we keep
That
out
they-
with them.
And
That
I
would be
believe we
good.
have a
Thank
link,
you.
but I'll double check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're lucky to have this organization here in Dutchess County. My father's former president
Yes.
of the board of this group, and I can tell you that the number of projects that are done and the amount of value that is provided by this organization is you really can't even put a number to it. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
really broadening your mission over the years too, and going above and beyond for our residents.
Thank you.
And
Thank
to
you
get
so
the word
much.
out, that's really important,
Well,
especially
this-
as we have new people moving into the area.
And these meetings really are very beneficial. The majority of people still learn about us through,
Right.
our flyers that you put up in your town hall and these types of meetings, and so we really do appreciate. Although we do tend to serve mostly elderly individuals, we serve families as well.
anybody.
But, it's nice to be able to hear about it this way as well. So
Well, we'll
thank you.
continue to make efforts and more efforts
Yeah.
to get it
Thank
out,
you.
both websites, social media. When we do talk of the town and other things, we'll continue to do it. But knowing, because your dad had mentioned it to me a while back, Bill.
Yes, he was
you
our
know,
board
the
president for
program,
probably
and then
15 years.
When the opportunity came, to
He takes great pride in this
ever come in.
organization.
Yeah.
For those that are watching on cable television right now, your website, what is your website?
rtduchess.org.
Okay, and that meeting will play over and over, so rtduchess.org is a great resource. Thank you.
And I
Thank
think
you.
a lot of major corporations help you with.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have Central Hudson, you have IBM, I believe Vassar Hospital, there's a lot of people.
Not faster yet, but I'd love to have them.
And I'm hoping that maybe we can.
I'm actually meeting with them this week.
But
Yes,
that's,
yes,
I
yes.
think,
Central Hudson
very-
IBM have been
yeah,
with us since our
exactly.
inception, Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union.
Yeah.
So yes, and that's how we're able to provide the services at no cost to the homeowner. Absolutely, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
great.
Thank you,
Thank
Christina.
you.
Appreciate it
Thank
very
you.
much. Another important contributor to our community is Grinnell Library, and Bridget Gannon had requested the opportunity to present to the board and to the community what Grinnell is doing, some of the programs, and I know we've had interest, particularly too, since we pay taxes into Grinnell Library, and that's part of our actually budget that we submit up. So Bridget, please introduce yourself. I think you're probably known, but
Hi, I'm Bridget Gannon. I'm the current president of the Grinnell Public Library's Board of Trustees. I just wanted to let people know that we're there to help everyone in the community, and we service the whole town of Wappinger and the village also, on both sides of the bridge, actually, the Poughkeepsie side also. I handed out flyers, and there's a little cartoon that tells you what the library does for people. You know, why do we need libraries anymore? There's a thing, an unemployed man using the internet to apply for a job, helping senior citizens doing genealogy research is one of the things a reference librarian would help with. Families saving money by borrowing books and DVDs. The average textbook, if you buy a hardcover book now, they're up to $30 at Barnes and Nobles. You get them for free, and we have interlibrary loans. If there's a certain book that you want, go on the website and you can put your library card in and you can request it. We have lots of programs. New moms meet at Babies and Books. Older patrons meet at Brain Games. Literature groups meet for Terror in the Turret. Page Turners is a book group for children that fosters reading, which has a direct correlation with the future academic achievements and child development. And the kids come in and play board games in the afternoon, so they're not running around on the streets. It's the People's University. They have homework help centers for children grades K through 6, STEM classes teaching coding for children in grades 1 through 8. You know, coders are earners. People who do coding start out when they leave college making 6 figures. So it's a very valuable lesson. Universal classes, there's 500 online courses. Mango Learners is an online lesson. There's lessons available in 7 different foreign languages and 20 ESL classes, which is English as a second language. Job Now helps with interviews, skills, resumes, and job search. So, and the other big thing is Grinnell is going to be the hub for the census. They're going to be hiring the recruiters. For every person that is not counted in Dutchess County and the state, the whole nation actually, we lose $3,100 in federal funds for each individual that is not counted. So it's very important, if we want to get our fair share of the taxes from the federal government, we need to have everybody counted. And the library will be doing that. So please check out the library, get a library card, and use one of the most valuable resources that costs absolutely nothing except for your tax dollars at Taxville. But it's a very good rate of exchange. Take care.
So from the census point of view, you'll be there to having a resource available for people that...
The librarians are trained, they're bilingual, they can help, and not only in Spanish and English. There's I believe there's one of the women speaks Russian also, but there's a lot of help there. They know how to answer it, they can get the resources, they will help the patrons fill out their forms, and they're also doing the recruiting. So they're hiring people, and the recruiters will be on site, and they will also facilitate in getting the census completed. It's very, very important that every person gets counted.
Okay. Is, Mr. Penny's organization the one that's helping you with setting that
Yes.
up? Okay, that's good. From the county, that is, for people
Yeah,
that
the
don't
county.
realize that.
And people can go on your website to see what
Oh,
classes are being.
there's classes,
I mean,
there's a calendar. You go on the website, there's a calendar. We have events all the time. It's a wonderful, wonderful
The
organization.
STEM class is quoting for the kids.
Mhm.
What are the hours for that? Is it every
Offhand,
day?
I do not know.
But is this something that would be held every day, or do they have to sign up, or?
As I said, I don't know the
Okay.
exact hours. You can find that out. There's a calendar that's published monthly, and it lists everything that's available.
That's very valuable for kids to
Oh,
learn.
yeah, absolutely.
The
And
coding.
a lot of young girls are doing very well
Phenomenal,
with
yeah.
that. Where they've been left behind in the past, girls are the big focus now.
So largely, your classes then after school hours?
Yes, and during the summer, there's all sorts
Right.
of summer programs for the children also.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Any
Okay.
questions?
I mean, to the Board of Trustees, Bridget and Beth and Bill and
Jane is also here.
Jane?
Held.
that volunteer your time to run this organization. You do a phenomenal job, and I thank you. I used your library through my entire master's degree. It was the only place I could find quiet outside my house.
And now you find quiet no longer at your
Now
house.
I find no quiet, but
Well, we're
luckily
still there. Come
I got
back.
it done. But, but
Lots of programs for your little boy.
yes, we'll be looking forward to that. But for the folks that may not be familiar with the library services, Grinnell-library.org is a good website full of information. And I just wanted to personally thank the Board of Trustees for your hard work that you put into this great organization. And a big shout out to my cousin Eileen Sassman. Thank you.
And I would like to,
And there's Danny Lowney.
Danny,
Ellen
my other
Christie.
cousin, Danny Lowney.
Yeah, and Ed Cheatham are also board members, and
And-
as everybody
right.
volunteers their time.
and I'd like to really emphasize, I do, of course, second what Bill said very much, having gotten to know the group and certainly some of them very closely, but I want to emphasize for the public, this great resource is available for the whole town of Wappinger because while it's located in the village,
Yeah.
it's available to everybody. And Bridget and the team have made a lot of efforts to do that, but it's not very far from any of us. There is parking available through their various parts, including right across the street, but also in Mizzier Homestead, there's parking up there. So please, come on out and use
also
it.
the Zion Church, we're
Right.
allowed to use
Yeah.
their parking lot. And Central Hudson is putting 2 new street lights in, so the
Yeah.
visibility
That's
will
good.
be better. So we're
So it's
moving along.
tremendous resource.
And you're always looking for volunteers, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are you volunteering?
Maybe, you never know, I volunteer for quite a few things.
Isn't it like the 7th oldest library or something, or there's
It's beautiful, actually. It's
6th
a
oldest
beautiful-
library?
But you're gonna volunteer with me.
Oh, and just
Sure.
as an aside, a lot of people have the idea that the Friends organization and the gala are what fund the library. The gala, if we make $3,000, it's a wonderful organization, they do help us a lot, but if they make $3,000 to $4,000, that's a lot. That's certainly not our budget.
So donations,
Donations
are very welcome.
always welcome, but the Friends is one group, they help us raise money, and they help us to do the programming and buy the extras. The kids get, snacks and things after program, but they're not our main source of income.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
very much,
Thanks for
Richard.
coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone. Next item, since we didn't have any public interest, I think there are a couple confidential issues you'd like to just discuss in private, in executive session, if that's
I agree.
okay with everybody?
Yep,
I
that's
have no
fine.
objection.
Yeah, okay. Next item, I see Steve just walked in. Steve, this is your, discussion item that you'd like to share with respect to trees at Martz Field and some of the ongoing challenges that you've had with maintenance with
Right.
regard to those.
I've mentioned this in the past, and everyone's aware that we had a terrible algae problem on the Martz Field tennis courts last year. And a good part of that is being caused by the row of mature white pine trees that are right next to the tennis courts that make that shaded 24 hours. That the tennis court don't receive any sunlight at all. And in addition to that, the pine trees are shedding pine needles year-round. and sap as well onto the courts.
And the SAP may be one of the worst
Right,
of the
that
problems.
just won't come up without
Right.
physical
Right.
attention to it. The only real solution is to take those trees down. I've gotten a couple quotes on that. I wanted to discuss that with the board here. It's sure to be controversial in some people's eyes. The two councilmen, Phillips and Casella, met with me there one morning, or it was one morning, and there was a group of pickleball players, were there, and they agreed with us that the best solution would be to take those down. It's just a nightmare for us. We can go ahead and blow off all the pine needles and such, which takes a couple hours, because
And they come right
it's a
back.
four-court facility, and, within 20 minutes, it'll look like we hadn't done anything at all. And, I just would like to get permission to take those trees down.
Is that
what is the
something
co-
we need to bid on, or?
Yeah, what's the cost of that?
Yeah, I did. I got a price of $7,900 versus $8,600. Baisley and was the low bid. The Acorn Tree Service was the second.
Does that include stump grinding too, or no, or is that just taking, does that include stump grinding too?
No,
or-
that's just cutting them down and removing them. We actually
Steve
have
has
a stump grinder.
Okay.
that he could use. One of the things I always hate to see trees cut down, and I'd like to suggest if we do, that we replant someplace in our parks. Maybe it's over Schlott House or something, the same equivalent number of trees, that we at least are doing our service to the environment, as to, looking after it. We can get maybe a 2-inch tree diameter or something, that oak or what have you, that would grow, but that would be my suggestion. I've certainly been working with Steve, and he's done a great job of keeping the courts clean, and it is a major problem.
I have a
No
question.
question about it.
Yes.
The roots from the pine trees, aren't they also causing problems with the heaving or hasn't happened
It
yet?
hasn't yet.
But it would
Those
be a
courts are
problem.
fairly new in being renovated, but yes, through
That
the
would-
years, they would push up
So
through
going
the,
forward, that would
right,
alleviate
through the
that
court
problem
surface.
also.
We've actually had that problem in some of the other parks with the basketball courts.
So that's what I thought, so.
So if you stump grind them though, doesn't that take care of the problem, or most of the problem? So,
Well,
once
yeah,
the trees are
right.
down, then we'll do the
Yeah.
stump grinding,
I
that'll
mean,
take care of the issue, because
But
you
I
don't
think her
want
point was if we
The
don't take
future.
them down,
Right.
this is something we would face
Exactly.
in the future, yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem as long as we can.
So do you have a place in your budget that you would recommend that we take the $7,900 out of? to
I
pay
haven't
for it?
looked at that portion. I know, believe I had 5,000 in tree service this year. I mean, it would take up all of that. I do have a contingency that I could move money from and put in there as well. And I don't recall what the amount for March itself is.
Okay. I know that, as you said before, we had a number of neighbors that were out there when Chris and I were out there, and they were all for it. So I think it's a good idea to do that. So if you need a motion tonight, I'd certainly make the recommendation of the motion that we allocate the $7,900 to go ahead and remove the trees, and also make sure that in the meantime, we also do the stump grinding at the same time, so we don't destroy, the courts down the road. Again, you don't want them surfacing up and destroying the brand-new courts that you put down.
But I would like to add that we also plant the equivalent number of trees at some location to be determined in the town. Maybe it's even out here, and, we would need some landscaping to be done, so at least we agree on that.
Yeah, that'll be a minimal expense.
Yeah,
Right, that's not included in the 7,900.
no, that would be additional.
Exactly, right.
How many trees are there?
13?
17, I believe.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how large are these diameter-wise?
Diameter at the base,
They're big. yeah.
Couple
probably
feet?
about 18 inches.
Yeah, they're big.
Height is
We were out there.
in excess of 40 feet.
Yeah.
So from a procurement standpoint, do we need quotes in writing here, or can we move on?
No,
before?
it's, it's below the competitive. I mean, I believe Steve has,
It's considered a,
it would be subject to probably at least two quotes. Two quotes is
Yeah,
That's
that's all
what I
he
have,
got was
yeah.
able to get, he talked with
procurement
me.
policy.
okay, I'll second it.
Okay, Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Just a quick question, when would you be able to get to that? When would you start to take those down, now that you've got the
As soon
bid?
as the ground freezes, because that, you know, right now, that's gonna be the determining factor, because
Okay.
of putting the truck on the grass, I'd like to do that when the ground is frozen
Okay.
again.
But you can get Baisley lined up
Right.
to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Great, thank you, Steve.
Very good, thank you, Steve.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Next item, or actually two items, I've asked Mike to speak on, to just brief the board, updated on his hiring, as well, Mike, on the road proposals.
Well, I went out, I've worked for the town for 29 years, and I've repaired all these roads several times, and I don't know how many times you're gonna repair them. So I went out, and the list I gave you, gentlemen and ladies there, was the roads that need it most, to my knowledge. So, you all got the list? I think it's a little over 5 miles.
I don't see one ward represented here.
And we had talked before about Old Troy, remember, you know, that, as one of them, Bill, I think, you know, last year had discussed.
How long, do you know how long Old Troy Road is? If we were to add it to the list instead of substituting?
That was done not too long ago. I can't remember, but it is falling apart. The edges are falling apart.
Now, some of the roads, right, they don't last the full 20 years depending on
No,
when they were done, how they were done, et cetera, because I noticed that some of these roads were, as an example here, one was 2006, but I know it's in pretty bad disrepair.
it's
So
according to the wear and tear of, how much traffic it gets in, like, water drainage, like in Royal Ridge, there's several people that, drain their, gutters right onto the road, which is not good for it. I mean, we're constantly repairing that, and it's never gonna get better.
A road like Old Troy, you know, there's springs, there's the
Yeah.
freezing and thawing, which heaves it and has been cracking it in
Yeah.
actually major ways, and some other roads like that, so it's the weather conditions as well.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you know, the other item that we had discussed was Robinson Park, and particularly Ralph Holt Way. And I know questions come up. I'd asked Jessica to take a look, and documents that she was able to find, maybe not conclusive, but indicates that, you know, Ralph Holt Way, that road there is actually a public, you know, town road, based on a number of things, you know, that if there's questions, Jessica can talk about it. But, you know, that's one too, I think we feel needed to have repair, and we're looking at trying to do that out of the highway fund.
repair and speed bumps and a few other things out there, but
Yeah.
yeah, we looked at that as well.
I'm not, I need to.
I'm new to that.
I gotta stop you, right there, because this is kind of getting out of control. I have no indication at all that this is a town road, Ralph Holt Way, or it ever was.
Well, I mean, one of the other issues is, if it's a town road, then you have limited ability to control access. So you can't put a gate on a town road.
Right, so is it a town road or not? I don't know why this.
Jessica has information, I'm just raising
No,
this
I mean,
because
as
she's
far as
found
the
information.
naming and things.
No, but
you
that-
know,
No, not dealing with naming, go ahead, Jessica.
Okay.
So we have, inside of the town code, we have parking regulations on that street. Oops. Sorry. In the town code, under the name Recreation Drive, which is the name of the road prior to it being Ralph Holt Way, we have parking regulations, and it refers to it as a street, saying no parking on that street from the intersection with Robinson 300 feet in. In the original resolutions naming it Recreation Drive, it refers to it as a road in the town of Wappinger that is unnamed. Now, also on file with County Real Property, it is listed as a public road. I spoke with them, I have that in writing. They have it on their roll as a public road. So,
I don't think that's accurate. I think this is a private driveway that was named Recreation Road for the purposes of 911 emergency street numbering. It doesn't meet town specs, it doesn't have drainage, it has speed bumps on it, and it doesn't meet the width of a town road. we renamed it Ralph Holt Way, and I was involved with that process. And basically, all we did was adopt a resolution renaming Recreation Drive, I think it was, Ralph Holt Way, which on parcel access indicates that it's part of the entire parcel, not an individual road. So how do we not know this, though, Jim? I don't understand.
The
Yeah.
resolution in 2007 is the one that I'm talking about?
Right,
was
but that
the-
resolution is naming it Recreation Drive.
Correct.
Which was as per the 911 addressing requirements. So
Yeah.
we have, scores of private roads in the town that are on private property. And
Correct.
this particular road happens to be within a town park, but I don't believe it is a town road. Now, if we can make it a town road so that we can use,
That's why we're discussing
That's
this,
exactly
and
why we're asking the
That's why
question.
we're asking the question,
Right,
not
but we-
and so I
nobody-
think Mr. Haran should be instructed to
Well, I
look
mean,
into it.
the one thing about the town road, if you open it up as a town highway, there's certain rules regarding access.
Sure.
So for purposes of putting a gate on it, one of the reasons why, we have hours of operation for our town parks. There's no hours of operations for the town road because they're deemed by law to be open 24 hours a day. So one of the things is if you make it a town road, then, as far as having access, and there's seasonal access roads where you can close roads off at certain times of the year, but I'm not aware of any provision in the highway law that allows you to close a road during certain times of day.
Understood. I think the first question is to determine whether
Sure.
or not it is actually a town road.
Yeah, I've never seen any documentation regarding it, but,
So can you do some research for us? 'Cause I mean, we can
Sure.
keep going in circles here all
Yeah.
night, but if you go do the research, we can find out and let us
I
know
mean,
the next meeting.
in some respects, the better option is to see if there's an ability to pave it using B fund money rather than A fund money.
And that's the whole idea of Dick bringing that up, I think. So if you can do the research
So-
for us, Bill has certainly,
Yeah.
some concerns there, and I agree
I'm
that we
looking
should
at
take a
It's
look
not-
at
It's
it.
not a public road.
Okay, so we should
No.
take a look at that. And so Jim, if you can just do the research.
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Just a question for Bill, just to help me moving forward in this. Can you think of any reason why it would be listed with county real property as a public road?
It's not, I'm looking at county real property right now. Whatever information you got is inaccurate.
Okay.
It's got to, real property
I can
has a
forward it
name
over
for
to
It
you.
has a road name, but it's not contained.
It's not
road.
shown on parcel access
It's
as
a
a
paper
separate
road
right
that's
of
got a name, basically. That's all. I mean, it's not even a paper road, actually. It's wholly within the parcel of Robinson Lane Baseball Complex. So that's what it is. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for
Yeah.
trying to find a way to use other funding to pave this, but
Sure.
my fear would be that, number one, I didn't even think about the access issue. The last thing we need to do is leave the park open to public transit, people driving through 24/7, that would be a challenge. Number two is if we had to bring this up to town road spec and we then were required to put drainage in and do all these, this could be a multi-million-dollar operation for something that just needs to be repaved.
Exactly, I agree with you.
So we just have to be careful how we proceed, and I think, as Councilman Casella said, perhaps, Jim, if you could, legally look into this.
Well, we'll pull the deeds.
There you
No,
go.
well,
Thank you,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well,
Perfect.
as the deeds.
I'm just hearing from people in the community that we're gonna be doing this and we're gonna be doing that, and I'm saying, oh, hold on, we can't make promises yet, to people in the Little League organization, because we don't even know what what the situation is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
That's
why we're having a
exactly right.
discussion
That's
tonight.
why
So
we're
we're
having
not,
this
we're not
discussion.
proposing that we do. We just want to get the information first.
The other issue is that, to the extent that you're paving that stretch of road, you would be foregoing paving another stretch of town highway, which can only come out of the DB fund. So in Robinson, in the park, you have you can theoretically I know you can at least pay for it out of A fund, but if you were going to pave, trying to think of Ketchum Town Road,
Right.
or Ketchum Town Road's a county road. but-
No, Ketchum
Oh,
Road's
Ketchum
down.
Town Road. So if you were gonna pave a town road, the money for that can only come out of DB.
Yes, I
Correct.
think we understand that.
So, you know, there's other options, other funds that are available to get funding.
So
for
let's get the answer
highway,
first. So
or
we'll
for-
explore the other options that we have, and if we have to use money out of DB, that's the route to go, that's what we need to do.
That's right.
So the other question would be, is there a provision to allow for paving using B fund?
Well, again, the question, and this is one of the questions that you have with respect to recreation. Technically, recreation is, most recreation is an A-fund expense for the most part.
Okay.
But because we have a village, and the village maintains its own recreation program and properties, there may be some ability to use B-fund money.
There you go. So if you could look into that also.
You know, and as you know, we've had back and forth many times regarding, you know, residents of the village's ability to participate in town programs and things of that sort, so.
Well, this, right, so.
Because the law on that is somewhat flexible.
Well, we have money in the B fund that I would say is readily available for that type of thing if
I
it's
agree.
permissible.
Right, if it's permissible.
Okay, thank you.
Which is
And
not
that's really what
the DB.
the whole purpose of this discussion is.
Right, not DB,
Right.
but B.
Right.
Do you have a question?
They've got like this, Mike, a question. Mike, you know, I live in New Court,
Yes.
years ago, there was a patch put in.
Yes.
Every time the plows come in, that patch, that's all, you know what it looks like.
Ends up in my front lawn. Yeah, he gets it all.
So charge him for the asphalt.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
We can notify that. Could we have,
We can recycle it.
could we please have that repaired?
And the curbs
Yes.
have gotten hit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know,
Okay.
we can do that, we'll cut it and do it properly. and-
Just to have it on record.
Yes.
And he can't sell
Jim?
it back to the
Yeah,
town.
all right, there you go.
Do we need money?
Thank you.
Yes.
The amount of money this is gonna cost?
Yes, I mean.
I think we need
Yeah.
the money amount. I mean, I have no problem with the roads, but
Yes.
I think we need to, is there a money amount that this is
Yeah,
gonna cost?
I think that was kind of the next step to determine the cost for this, once the board, you know.
Yeah,
felt
once the
that
board
these-
approved it, then I would,
No, I know, but at least the list, it doesn't mean that we
No, the
have to
list
do
is
it all.
fine. I
Yeah.
didn't have any problem with the list. I'm just wondering, we should probably
Yeah,
have at
so-
least an estimate of the money?
So to the extent that, I mean, and, you know, in the past years, this is, you know, the way the board's done the 284 agreement. So the 284 agreement typically, you know, if these are the roads you're going to look at, we look at the CHIPS money that's been allocated for the town. I believe in the past, and I don't know how much bonding, if there's any funds remaining from the prior bonds that were issued. We can check with Frederick with respect to that. I don't know if those bonds were drawn down totally or not. And, you know, so, and what the board has done historically in the past was issued a bond, and one of the things that we've done the last couple of years, which I think is a prudent practice, would be to issue bonds for 2 years of paving. And to go out and look, you know, contemplate, you know, in addition to contemplating this year's roads, the roads that, you know, would be anticipated for next year. That way you stay ahead of the game.
Right.
And, you know, if you're doing, you know, because one of the other things too, we've found to be more cost-effective is to try to schedule, it's from a staging point of view for doing the work, if you can kind of group roads together, the paving company doesn't have to restage
shovel,
some of
right.
his equipment. So to the extent you can, you know, get a bunch of roads that are done in relatively the same area, that makes the dollars go a little bit further. And then the other issue too is some roads require, you know, drainage work and things like that. Sub bases and things. So, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, historically, the town has, you know, repaved some roads, put new blacktop on, and kind of didn't really look too hard at the drainage issues, which, you know, maybe, you know, with respect to some of these roads, is the reason why you don't get the life cycles out of them that you should.
Right.
So, you know, and it may be, while you're doing the work, it may be worth it to, because again, you know, permanent drainage work can come out of the CHIPS money. So,
So I think one of the things Mike and I talked about was, if we decide these are the roads we're gonna do, and we can actually have the funding, he wanted to go out there and do some of the prep work early so that we can see and do something with the drainage if there's issues out there. Because again, I agree with your statement that maybe the drainage wasn't as good as it could have been, and it caused these roads not to last to 20 years, et cetera, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was, the whole idea of, for requesting, why I requested Mike to put together the list, as
Yeah.
we did, the board at the previous meeting, so we can look at the prep work.
So getting back to Councilwoman Bettina's question, how much is it gonna cost? Is there an estimate for the 5.28 miles?
Well, normally what we would do is, once we had the list, we would recon and measure and work with Mike on all the parameters and come up with our budget estimate per road, per stretch of road, and then from
Because if we
there,
have to bond it, we wanna know how much we have to bond for, and can we use any of the B fund money at all? I mean, that's for highway.
Well, it's DB.
It's the,
All right, DB, so can we use some of the money for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
so
So rather than bonding it all, you
Well, I
could.
mean, it's the same right. So one of the issues is with respect to bonding, if you spread the cost out over, the life of a bond, which I think for paving is 20 years?
I think it's 20 years.
It's either 15 or 20 years. You get more bang for your buck. I mean, one of the things with respect to the highway department, that's probably the fund where you probably need to have a sufficient fund balance, because things change in that department very abruptly
Quickly.
from year to year. You can get spikes in fuel, you can get spikes in pavement, you can get, very, very bad winters where you have a lot of overtime for plowing and a lot of salt requirements. So it's prudent, I think, in that fund to not spend that much out of fund
Right.
balance, where if you have the ability to bond it and spread that cost over time and keep the money in fund balance in case something happens that's unexpected.
Well, what I'd like to do, though, is we have a number of projects here that we're gonna probably have to bond for. This isn't the only one, so, again, we wanna stay under the tax cap, and so what I wanna get an idea is, if I'm gonna bond all these things, is it gonna put me over the tax cap?
Well, you can come back to us at
Yeah.
a
well,
next
yeah, I think,
meeting, correct?
I think the idea here is to decide whether or not these or additional roads
Yeah.
should be looked at to determine what the costs are. And I think the one that I had raised, that I'll defer to Councilman Beal as well, since it's in his ward as well, is Old Troy Road, since that it gets a tremendous amount of traffic.
Yeah.
Is, as you even said, a lot of wear and tear
Yes.
because of the road conditions with the ice and snow and the springs that are there. That, I suggest that we add
Yeah.
that to the list.
If you could take a
To
look.
consider, right, cost
Yes.
and everything.
I'd
Well,
be
Yeah,
ha-
because there's a water problem
Yeah,
there,
right.
I think.
well, the water's the road gets undermined. I mean, it's just it's an old
Mess.
road.
Yeah.
If you could just take a look at that, Old Troy Road, and if there's any other roads or small stretches in Ward 1 that could be addressed, my job is to lobby for Ward 1, and I don't see any roads from Ward 1 on here. So if we could get a couple on here, even if it's a small stretch, but I will say last year, a couple of the smaller ones were taken care of last year. So if we can revisit Ward 1 a little bit, I'd feel a little better.
When does the material prices come out from the county?
You mean chips?
No,
The
the,
county's,
it's Tilcon,
Probably April.
The asphalt.
probably around April.
April? Okay.
Follow up. We typically, the county's bids have been pretty good, in recent years. We haven't solicited bids. I mean, we always have the opportunity to do that, but the county's got such purchasing power that, I don't
Right.
think we've ever.
So I'd say, Mike, if you can get back to us on the board meeting on February the 10th, and maybe you have preliminarily at least consulted with, Tim and
Sure.
the team, to give
Yes.
us a rough ballpark figure if you don't have exact numbers.
Yeah, well, the
on
roads I
these
gave you is,
Right.
I swept the roads, and
Right.
you can't sweep them roads because
Understood.
the sweeper devours it.
There's no question,
I
but
mean,
get the
yes.
cost down,
Yes.
and I think
Yeah,
consider
we
Right.
can work with you.
Yeah,
what we had discussed, Old Troy, and if there's another old road or two,
Okay.
elsewhere.
Yep,
and
no
put it
problem.
in, because we won't approve everything.
Yeah.
But we want to see what the list is and figure out, but sometimes there may be extra monies that come available, so we
Yeah.
can look at that as well.
Speaking of extra money, there was a Pave New York announcement yesterday.
Yes.
Did we qualify for any of that Mike?
I-
Do we know?
No, I had sent out a note, you know,
I
to
don't
see
know.
whether or not we
Right.
qualify, but
Pave New York is
Yeah.
Yeah,
another
he
program
says
like
that.
CHIPS.
I sent something, yeah.
I think it might be competitive, though, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it seemed like that.
Well, so there's three programs typically. It's CHIPS, Pave New York, and EWR, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
emergency weather or something.
Something.
right.
Reconstruction. I think last year, the original budget that was passed didn't have any money in EWR, but then at the very last minute it was added. And I think it was maybe another 30,000, I want to say, don't quote me, but, you know, it was less than 50.
Did they add it to CHIPS, or how did they do that?
No, it's a separate program.
Right.
And so that program's been around since about 2010, 2011. You know, it was designed to address winter road damage for
Right.
the most
Okay,
part.
I see the Pave New York. These are all state roads.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Most of them are state roads that, throughout the 5-county area, so I don't see anything for
So
town.
somebody, you know, Bill, you know, to that, we should double check, said something about with relationship to the intersections or the areas that join.
Yeah.
You know, roads, our town roads and the state roads,
Yeah.
there may be some, you know, funding, I recall something like that. So it wouldn't hurt, you know, for us to check into it. I don't know, Tim, Mike, you know, if we just
Well,
double
look, I
check to
just sent a
see.
text.
And I know
Great if we
that,
could
you know, Vinnie Bettina had found some extra money too last year, which helped us do another road.
I mean, one
So
of the other
if there is
things
something-
too, and I don't know,
They do
Yeah,
9D.
yeah.
which we may want to look at because of the work on Myers, and I don't know time frame as far as work on Old Hopewell Road. But one of the things that we might be able to get some additional mileage out of is coordinating our paving work for roads that intersect those two.
Right, that's
Well, there-
what I'm
we're-
talking about,
Yeah, like 9D. I mean,
Well,
how many
I
of our
mean-
roads intersect with 9D?
No, but what I'm saying is, right now, the county has an ongoing project on Myers
Yeah,
Corners.
right.
And, you
So
know,
if you
there's
say,
one
for example, off
scheduling.
the, you know, Old Hopewell, you know, Low Sea Road, or,
Right.
you know, the intersections or something like that.
Switch Place.
Because actually, as Tim and I have looked at the plans, they do, you know, look like that they are designed to have more intrusiveness on our roads than Myers Corners did,
Right.
you know, so, because of the nature of the work that they're
Sure.
going to be undertaking in
They're
that
doing
big
a lot of
document. So, Jim, I think that's a valid point. We should, you know, look at that.
Great.
Okay,
Alright.
so come back to us
Yeah, so
with
will.
your proposal.
Yep,
That's
I'll
great,
hook up with
thanks.
Tim, I'll get Tim.
But thanks for getting it to us real
Thank you.
early. This is-
Okay.
this is
That's
good.
great, thank you.
Thank
So do
you.
we need to do the rest of the presentation for him, because you've got item number 6 here? I don't-
Yeah, he can do that, or wait till we have the resolution short, I mean, the approval, you know, item with, it's up to you, because when I said
What-
come
what
on
is
up, item 6 was concerning just discussing the highway department hiring promotions, which is at your discretion, but
Yeah.
information, you know, to the board.
Right.
You know, so
I mean,
maybe, I know you sent out an email as we
Yeah, I
discussed
would
it.
move 2 gentlemen up to an HMEO, which I have 3 spots, I'm only want to use 2. And I had a MEO opening, and I heard a young fella, local. And, like, again, we sent the email out to you, and
Yep.
Right.
so I'm
Appreciate
asking
it.
permission to move the 2 operators, 2 MEOs up to HMEO.
So it's all contained within your budget, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he had the authorization
Yep.
from the head count point of view.
So is there a reason why we do this as a resolution? If it's contained within this budget, I thought that all we had to do is, as long as he's got it contained within his budget, we
No,
don't need approval
all
on it.
this is information and just kind of acknowledgement of
Okay.
that we're not, you know, he's the one that has the authority to
Hire and
to
fire and-
discipline.
Okay.
You know, so we've appropriate, you know, already the money, so it's as a courtesy of the board.
So more
It's
of a
sort like,
formality?
You know, deputy supervisor or, you know, my secretary and so forth, that
Mm-hmm.
is a courtesy of the board, and it's an acknowledgement basically of that. I believe, right, Bill? That's the way we've handled it.
No, I
before.
appreciate the situational awareness. We don't need to give permission.
No.
My question would be relative to, how many vacancies do you have right now, do you know?
I don't think I have any. I think I have 1 HMEO, but again, I don't need to fill that right now.
Okay.
Other than that, I just replaced me, which is good. It brings me back up to the 17 men.
Okay, all right, so if we can just at some point confirm with the Controller's Office, you know, that.
We have.
That we had,
We've done that
You've
already.
done that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's-
we've done that. And Mike's also been in, and
Yeah.
I've talked with him, but Mike was
Okay.
in scrubbing that as well.
All right.
Do you have
Yeah.
anybody out? Is anybody out on disability right now?
Yes, there's one gentleman out. I don't know what the issue is. He's care of a doctor right now.
Okay. Is it
Supposedly
just the
comes
one?
back February 8th.
Just the one?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Just the one.
Yep.
And that was kind of a sudden,
I have no
situation,
idea.
no idea what the reason is.
Nope.
Okay, so
All right, thank you.
that's all I need to know. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, the next item for the agenda is Resolution 2020-40. This was a resolution to hire a deputy zoning administrator. I'd like to propose that we table this and discuss it in executive session for Barbara to talk with us about one or two.
I agree, I'll second this.
Second.
Okay, thanks. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2020-41. It's what we had, this is a resolution to hire account clerk typist for accounting department. It's what we had talked about before, and this is to hire an account clerk typist. The person's name is Gerald, Jeryl Fontana, at $21 per hour. And this was one that Frederick in the position to fill really an existing position.
This is a full-time position?
Yes, it is.
And this person is coming off the list?
Yes, and, Sandra's reviewed it all with civil service.
Move.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is what really basically we discussed,
about.
Resolution 2020-42, but basically it's just an acknowledgement. I think we've already done that, but officially for the record, I'd say that we just officially acknowledge, that appointment's been made from the budgetary point of view. We have funds allocated for it.
So do we need a motion?
I think we just,
I
I
make
think
a
we kind
motion
of
to
consensus
I'll second.
of the
I
board.
just make a motion to approve.
Yeah,
I'll second.
Yeah, so,
Resolution 42.
acknowledgement. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2020-43. This is one that Steve has proposed. This is a resolution appointing maintenance laborers in Buildings and Grounds Department. Steve, if you would like to just briefly discuss it.
I didn't bring a copy of the names with it, but they are the guys I interviewed for 2 weeks, had a number of candidates come forward, and these were the ones that I sifted through as being best for our operation. The budget lines should be attached to the resolution and what they, where they fall.
So you have Tyler Lloyd as a maintenance laborer, $18 per hour, Jeff Graziano as a maintenance laborer at $18 an hour, and then Kevin Du Bois as a maintenance laborer at $18 an hour. Those are the three.
And the third one is possibly a temporary appointment while one of my employees is out on extended disability.
How extended?
That's unknown at this point.
Okay.
Back
Yeah, that's-
problems.
So what kind of projects are they gonna be working on, Steve?
Excuse me?
What kind of, programs? It's just pure maintenance? Is that what they're gonna do, the equipment that you have, or is it,
Yeah,
they're gonna
well,
do
yeah,
anything
it's
else?
the, building repairs and grounds maintenance.
Okay.
We're doing, during the off seasons when I try to do as much building repairs as I can, because once the grass starts growing, that pretty much ties us up for the season. So getting that, what we did, we converted 2 seasonal positions to year-round in the budget, and that's what these positions are.
Okay.
And hope, that the idea being that we can get more building maintenance done now in the off-season.
Help you with those 72 projects you have? Help you with the 72 projects you have out there?
Yeah.
And growing list.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
And just on the question real fast, just to clarify, the third, Kevin Du Bois, understands coming in that he is...
Yes, I made that very clear to him.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and we've, I think Sandra's had additional discussions with them and has discussed all this with civil service.
Okay, very good.
I listened to those discussions. And Jim, to your question, and actually, I think after the meeting, not necessarily today, but discussed the one situation of disability for Steve's area, because it's a disability, as I understand it, not related to job performance.
Correct.
With Steve, it's a separate one, it's not
Okay.
on-the-job disability, so, and it's been going on for a long time, so I think we need to discuss what we do in that situation, okay? All right, Steve?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, thank you very much. The next item.
Hang on a second.
we
We had a
I'm
motion
sorry,
and a
that's
second.
right.
We didn't
Got
vote on
off
it.
that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2020-41. This is a resolution establishing wages for various employees of the town of Wappinger not covered under union contract. I'd like to make two notes. One is, I think the Cooper Leatherwood is not appropriate to be on this contract, since that's deputy town clerk is covered by the CBA agreement. I checked the CBA agreement today, and it's a specific position, so we, I think, need to defer that until we're done with the CBA agreement.
We're going to take the deputy clerk's off, considering that.
They're still on the current CBA agreement, and that's under negotiation. We can, raise that, but at this point in time, it's still covered.
Right, but Jim, isn't exempt employees not supposed to be on these CBA agreement?
No, they were negotiated into the agreement.
Should we table this, or?
No,
Just
I
amend
don't
it?
want to table the whole resolution.
Just amend it?
Just that.
Just take that one name out.
off and-
Yeah.
Or table it as to that individual until we discuss this with the union. There's a meeting coming up, I think, next week, or maybe later this week there is.
So his salary would be impacted by the union
Yes,
contract?
could be. Or covered under the union contract by the amount that is proposed here.
I mean, the other option is, you take them out of the CBA. So-
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen.
Right, we don't know what's going to happen. That's my point, why I raise it
So
right now.
we can't approve this.
I make a motion to move this resolution and amend Cooper off of the resolution.
I'll second that.
All right, so on the question now, we have a blank.
So the blank is this. This is, remember, the salary is covered under two line items. Each one of those is the equal amount of $19,279. The first line item is line 7310.100B. Second line item is line 7620.100A. So each one is $19,279.
Okay?
279.
Correct.
So total should read 38,558.
Right.
I'll move to amend the previous motion. My amended motion will be to strike Cooper Leatherwood from this resolution and then add the amount of 38,558 to the blank next to the employee JF.
I second your amended resolution.
Very good, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
So that was on the amendment, and then you should take a vote on the
Actual.
That was on the
Actual
amended.
So
Yes,
move,
right.
so move as amended.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the final motion passes, approving as amended.
So in the meantime, now Supervisor.
Yes.
The CBA negotiation will determine if that employee we discussed is even going to be part of the CBA. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if that employee is not part of the CBA, it's moot because we already previously approved that salary for that position. Is that correct? In other words, I don't want this employee to end up having an issue now because we didn't codify his salary.
So, well, we would have to codify that because this salary's been stricken from here. He'd go on receiving current salary.
Well, technically, it's whatever salary was adopted in the budget.
Yeah,
So
Sure.
Joe, is the
Somebody's-
salary in the budget different than the salary that was proposed here?
okay.
Same.
Oh, so there you
Then
go.
there's the answer.
I just wanted to make sure that we
Yeah.
weren't
These are
docking them.
Right,
These are really just
because he's doing a
confirming,
great job.
these are really confirmatory resolutions.
Okay,
Right.
it's not
Because
setting anything.
Theoretically, the new town board has the ability to
Okay, I see what you're saying.
reduce the salary that was previously appropriated in the
All
budget.
right, so he just stays status quo.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. So the next resolution is a resolution approving the shared services contract with Dutchess County. The shared service agreement is the same, contract as previously negotiated and approved with the board, no changes at all. The blank number to be filled in on, the whereas clause to the bottom is $60 per hour. That's what we agreed to, not to exceed $60 an hour is the way it says.
That was the same as last year?
The same,
Okay.
identical. There's nothing, all we got was basically a form that if the board approved the renewal, then the paperwork starts and we're able to get whatever
Okay, great.
shared services or other goods that we get.
I guess the one question, did we use that, did we use it for printing last year?
We used it for printing last year, at least printing. And it may have been another item or two I've just forgotten right now. And got a very good deal for that with the printing. But it's identically the same.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is resolution number 2020-46. This is a resolution authorizing the agreement for dial ride services with Dutchess County. This is also the same agreement that we had last year. There is a change though, and is there any change? There's no change on the dollar amounts. Was there any? And the days, that's right. The days are also the same. So we're covering the same terms as we did last year.
Correct. I think this is our last year of the extension, though. I think next year we start a new agreement. But for this year, everything's the same.
And you've been fully utilizing, or the seniors have been fully utilizing the services.
It's on the rise, and I like talking to the seniors about some of the people who use Dial-A-Ride but don't necessarily use it to come to our center. And it seems like it's becoming a more and more used resource in the town. So for doctors' appointments, shopping trips, things like that, things that they can't get to on their own.
But it's also not limited to seniors, right? That's my understanding.
There's also,
If you're handicapped, they have a paratransit component, so, so.
I think it might be beneficial, because there has been a change in mass transit again at the county level, to at some point have them come in
Sure.
and explain their services.
Totally agree.
just like rebuilding together, once a year county transit comes in.
Right, but I'm, in addition to your senior center, have them come into a town meeting and basically give
agree.
us a description of the program.
I agree. And the limitations, if any.
Because this is
So
also.
people are confused. so-
Right, this is all, now we're at 5 days, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
So we're at 5
Well,
days.
it's 5 days local service, we were always 5 days service, but,
Not always. We weren't always 5-day service.
we'll go the Jessica years, so. for
Okay.
the- For the time that I've been here, we've always been 5 days of service, but on Tuesday, we were, non-local service. So it was only service of picking people up in Wappinger and taking them to Kipsey, Fishkill, things like that.
Okay.
So now 5 days local service.
Because this contract that we're authorizing also includes our portion of the Village of Wappingers.
Correct.
Right.
So
Right.
it would be good to have
Sure.
that presentation on television so that folks
We'll get
can
it
see
scheduled
Can we
for
get it quick?
February, yeah.
Yeah, I'll book it,
Please.
I'm
Right.
gonna be calling them this week, so I will book it.
You're off mic, by the way.
I'm really bad at that. I'm going to be speaking to them this week, and I can book them for a town board meeting in February. I'll set that up when I set up my talk for them at the senior center.
Well, it doesn't have to be February. I mean, even, because February's gonna be a little bit tough,
Right.
I think.
Okay.
But I would say once the weather breaks, maybe, it might be a good
Sure.
opportunity to have them come in.
Agree.
Yeah, agreed.
If you get, I will take care of it for you.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
So I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2020-47. This is a resolution appointing members to the Town of Wappinger Arts and Cultural Development Advisory Committee. This is the committee that we had approved last year, but did not get members appointed because we were waiting for volunteers and 1 or 2 activities actually that was done. I've provided you a list on the dais with respect to recommendations. I noticed that the resumes that were attached were not all that clear, unfortunately, and I apologize for that. But the members, you may recall, is that The charter provides for 7 to 20 members, and of those members requires one board member as a member and also the town supervisor as a member and chairperson. So in this particular situation, would be myself, and then I propose for discussion Councilman Chris Phillips, and then there would be Alex Reese, proposed Torrance Miller, Hayden Wayne, Allison Gray, Brian Lammers, Bonnie Brown King, and Alexa Spadorfa. So those are the proposed people.
And how often you meet?
It's required, once a quarter is what it would be under the charter. And since you weren't here before, I'll provide you with a copy of the charter if you
Great,
don't
thank
already
you very
have it.
much.
That spells out the duties. I do have a copy, with me, which I can provide to you after the
great.
meeting.
We have 2 people from Cosmo?
Yes.
There were no others? that
No
applied?
others that applied, no.
Well, I have no objection to not only the proposed members, because we can always provide additional
Right.
members, right?
Go up to
Yeah,
20?
There's no set amount of people on this.
Well, it's 7 to 20.
7 to 20.
Okay.
Well, based on the information I'm reading here, we have some very diverse, qualified individuals here in the arts, and certainly I'm very pro-arts, having been a thespian in my early life, and I'm a huge supporter of theater and live entertainment. So I will move your recommended proposed members.
I'll second that.
And I would add that all these individuals have already actually participated in a couple of our events, such as the Senior Arts Show, the event up at Carnwath, and made some good contributions. So we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you very much. The next item is the license agreement for Fieldstone. This is Resolution 2020-48. Jim, maybe you'd like to summarize and refresh the board, because it's been a long time, what this specific item's for.
So this is regarding a parcel that's in Fieldstone. If you come in Fieldstone Boulevard before you get to the loop, it's basically straight ahead. The parcel is, title to the parcel is in the Park District. Mr. Stevens, the neighbor, has been maintaining that property for some time.
Beautifully, I'd add.
Yes.
Very nicely
Yes.
decorated.
And he does a nice job, and he's requested the ability to continue to do so. This is a revocable license. It's a non-exclusive license. So basically, he has the ability to continue to maintain the property. Others can go on, but he certainly does a good job and keeps it up. It's at no cost to the town, and it makes the neighborhood look better.
Because this lot, and I think, Bill, you may be looking at it, it's a real aberration of how this happened. It looked like it may have been designed for a playground. We don't know why the Conservation District has this lot right in the middle of the development where nothing else like that exists.
It seems like it would either be...
Is that the lot before you go down the hill?
Yes, as you're coming in, there's mailboxes
Yeah.
that are right to the left in front of it, which nobody knows who maintains them. The post office doesn't, it's another, and I saw Mike just left. I was going to ask him to go out and take the reinforcing rods out of the road, but I'll catch up.
Yeah,
with
no,
him.
but, so I don't know if that was the intent.
Yeah,
It's kind of
we don't-
unclear, and we don't really have we don't have anything in the planning board file that indicates
No.
what that parcel was ever intended for.
No.
It's identified, this parcel? on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It's 32. I'm looking at it. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, very.
So what is that? That's just a pocket park or something? Or?
But
We don't know,
I don't
yeah.
even know if it's big enough to be a park.
Right.
It's,
And it also has a slope, it's really strange. The way he's landscaped it is quite nice
Yeah, no,
and
he's
adds
done
to
a
the
nice
beauty of the
job,
community.
So he just has been doing this?
Yeah.
yeah.
We should give him an award.
And we can, and he's
really
asked nothing
serious.
for it. He just wanted to have clarity that he was allowed
Right.
to do it and didn't get in trouble with us lawyers.
Where does he live?
He
Yeah,
lives
really.
if you're looking at it
Fieldstone.
to the north, he lives to the right.
Yeah, so you're going down the road a little bit, around the corner?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And let's see if he's got. He's the owner of that
Yep.
unit?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is that Stevens?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So where he's basically asking permission to continue maintaining
Yeah.
a town, piece of town property?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And then, you know, what happens if he gets hurt while he's maintaining it?
There's an indemnification waiver provision, and there's insurance, an insurance requirement to the town.
I mean, he's got no gain by doing this except beautification,
Yep.
Right.
Right.
so I have no objection.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've talked with him several times.
Nobody else
and-
is fighting to maintain it, are they?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, and that was kind of the thing, is I think ultimately what had happened was the town never maintained it, so he
Right.
took it upon
You don't
himself.
say. All right, well,
Okay.
he's asking for this, or we're out telling him?
Yeah, he's asking
asking
it for
kind
us
of to
to
make it-
clarify his
Something
rights
that
to
it's
do
in
that.
He had requested it,
I'll
yeah.
yield to my colleagues on the east side of town.
Unless, Bill, you want to go out and do it, then I'm okay with
If
it.
I had the time, I would.
So we have
I
a
move-
motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Any nays or?
Yes.
Actually, to the question that Councilman Beal had asked, originally he had asked to purchase the property.
Right.
Okay.
But the issue is that, because it's parkland, we'd have to go up to Albany to get alienation. So,
Yeah.
this was a quicker way to do it.
Jim decided that it just wasn't really workable that way. so-
How come when you look at the parcels that are owned by the town around that entire development, it just indicates the town of Wappinger? It doesn't indicate town of Wappinger Park District? Or-
Because that's parcel access. If you look at the deed, the deed is to the park district.
Okay, so,
Parcel access doesn't always have the correct owner.
right, so the park district, is there a specific park district created for that development? Is that
Yes,
how?
there
Yes.
is.
Now, are people?
And there's a separate park district created for the hamlet, and then there's a third park district created for Kendall Farms.
But they're non-taxing districts, correct?
They could be,
Right now, they're not, there's no tax.
but they were set up as taxing
Right.
districts.
And you recall from our previous discussion, there's no HOA there, so there's come into question. And when we discussed at the board previously, we authorized to go ahead to do, survey, looking at the boundary lines because of the significant encroachment on the other side. So that's to be presented to us at a later date. CPL is working on that.
That's actually ongoing right now, and we do want to work with the supervisor's office to come up with a letter, basically letting all the residents know that we're out there working on behalf of the town toward the survey. I guess our surveyors are. kinda
Because
getting
Steve
a lot
has
of
been
questions.
continued to get inquiries about taking down a tree or cutting it up when it's actually on our land in the encroached area, so we need to just clarify, but we wanted to get this license out
This
of the
one was
way
easy.
before.
Who maintains the boulevard median? The town?
Town,
I believe the highway department.
Highway Department.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get into this situation where now we're creating another layer of government inadvertently.
Well, it already was created, so.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we have to tax them.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I mean, I think we continue to go on with the services that we have been providing
Yeah.
out there, but we clarify where the boundary line
Right,
is,
right,
so
right.
we don't go doing work,
Right.
that really is on our land,
Yeah, yeah.
unless it provides a hazard, to people's boundary and their
Right.
houses and pools or whatever that it is. So that's the predicament that Steve has faced and resources, so we're
Thank you.
trying to clarify it.
Well, and the other issue is the access to those areas is limited at best.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Actually, the same issue exists for Hamlet as well. We have that, and I guess, Jim, that's the only area in the town where this particular situation with this conservation easement districts exists, right?
Yeah,
Fieldstone and Hamlet.
and Kendall Farms.
Oh, that's right, Kendall Farms, yeah.
Kendall Farms is a little bit more
Different.
manageable,
Yeah.
actually, because it's got access off of Old Hopewell.
Right.
It's pretty, it's not as, these are very constricted spaces.
But we own a significant amount of property around this.
Yes, we
Correct.
do.
This
Yes, we
Fieldstone.
do. So, but as Jim said, this land has other restrictions that would require us to go to Albany if
I
we
mean,
wanted to do anything
the
with it.
biggest issue, most of it is, steep slopes and,
Yeah.
generally unusable, but.
I did respond to a plane crash behind this neighborhood, and I think it was on town property, actually, now that I look at it, but it's straight down,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, which is how the town got it.
Of course.
Okay.
Back in this, we would never
Unbelievable.
take it today, but
Right.
back then.
Okay, so we did have a motion second, we did vote on it. I saw no abstentions or any other issues, so the
Right.
motion passes. Okay, thank you. The next item, actually, we have a series of items, starting with item 10 through 16 on resolutions of appointments. And, I've been requested by a couple of the councilmen, to perhaps consider tabling at least some of these. Mr. Casale, you had
Yeah, so
raised
for
some
the CPL, nothing
interest.
personal to Jim, but being new to the board, I haven't seen the contract, so I'd appreciate being able to see the contract, see what it, it encompasses. Are we paying hourly, are we paying monthly, what kind of rates are we paying? I'm sure it's standard from what you had before, but again, being a new person on the board, I'd just like to take a look at it before I say yes or no.
And I have no issue with that. I think it's good to do that, and we can have more discussion also in executive session to answer some of the questions that any of you may have. So did you want to apply this to all the items? I know that one in here is actually with respect to the IT contract.
No, I think it doesn't apply to all. As an example, as you were suggesting, the IT, we had the contract in here, so as we go through the different resolutions,
Okay. So the first resolution is Resolution 2020-49. This is a resolution employing CPL Engineering Services. So you want
So that's one of the ones I want to table that, please.
There's a motion.
Motion to table.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2020-50. This is a resolution employing Conflict Engineering Services. This is Larry Paggi and his organization. Again, they were approved last year, but what's your preference, Mr. Council?
I'm okay with this one, as they have very little activity with the town anyway, and assuming they're exactly the same, I don't think this
Right.
one is a big issue here, so I have no issue with this one.
I did talk with Mr. Paggi and.
Yeah, I move we approve Resolution 50.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2020-51. This is a resolution employing planning consultant services to the town of Wappinger. This is with respect to David Stallman's firm.
So I like to table, I like to table this one as well, because we have 3 big contracts we're looking at tonight, and I haven't seen any information on these, so in order to vote on that, so again, this would be the next one I'd like to table.
So, but we had
Did you have?
I wanted to approve it.
So we
Move
have,
forward for this one.
so we have a motion, we have conflicting motions, I guess.
So the
in
motion
that
to table
particular
takes
case.
precedence.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as he gets a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to table?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
I just want to see what's going to happen.
Okay, it's tabled. The next resolution is Resolution 2020-52. This is resolution approval of IT contract. This is with Craig Roberts.
I'll move this.
Second it.
And I would like to add that, in all cases, but certainly in Craig's case, he's done a tremendous job with getting us up to the 21st century. And we'll have one discussion, I'd update you with respect to the audit, but which is actually good news overall. But we are security-wise are basically the state of the art, and that's constantly been tweaked. I think the main topic to be discussed, and I've already had discussion with actually Houstonville, is that in the event of unforeseen calamity, here, we might need still to have an operations center where we can conduct business on the town, outside of town hall if it's not accessible. I think that's the main thing that needs to be addressed from an IT. So in other words, idea would be to set up, a backup, server, computer at, let's say, Houstonville when they build that new room, Bill, or some other place. We certainly can consider that at the time. But otherwise, our IT has been, really best in class, I think, overall, and also our insurance carrier has recognized that. So we had a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none.
The number one threat to
motion
local
passed.
governments right now is cybersecurity.
That's correct.
And we have had conversations with Craig and his his firm about this, especially post-Iran and some of the things that are happening right now. That's something that, in my opinion, we needed to move on, which we did.
We have, and also I will report that as we're reviewing, and I'm going to have Robert Giamatti come and present on our insurance coverage and the renewal, but we do have a full line of cybersecurity, insurance that is protecting us on that too. But we'll have him, he's going to come probably the next meeting and present to us on our various coverages, including that.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks for the support. The next item is Resolution 2020-53. This is a resolution employing labor and employment council services to the town of Wappinger. This is specifically Brian Morgan and his firm. Again, he's been working hard on the various labor contracts, and we're about at the point for an update. I believe one of the union agreements were about finalized as far as the principles, and the other one we're not far behind, but he's been very helpful on that. Mr. Casella?
I'm good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2020-54. This is a resolution employing legal services to the town of Wappinger in connection with tax certiorari matters for calendar year 2020. This is specifically concerning Christian's area. This is one where Wallace & Wallace has been providing those services. The discussions that we've had with the firm and with Jim and Craig was to have Craig, take over, that area with the support from Jim. But Jim has a lot of things to focus on, so we had proposed that, Craig do that.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2020-55. This is a compound resolution, and maybe we should break it out. It's a resolution employing legal services to the town of Wappinger Town Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Planning Board for the calendar year 2020. So basically, there's three elements in there, and it would also include the general, legal services to the town.
So I'm going to make a motion to table this one as well. Again, I haven't seen the contracts. I'd like to see those.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next resolution is 2020-56. This is a resolution to authorize the naming of roads in the Maloney Heights subdivision. I believe we have a resolution with the name that was there. I've forgotten the name. I have to turn to that.
First one is Ramy Lane versus going to Haifa, and the second one is Jimmy Lane, going to be Ritchie Lane.
Good. Do we have any questions on that?
So what are these road name changes or road name designations?
Barbara?
The roads haven't been built out yet, so Maloney Heights, I guess, was approved back around 2008? 2007, so it came back up and, and I believe it changed hands, so the new owners.
Oh, okay. So these are the recommended names that came from the current
Yeah, right.
developer?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? May I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2020-57. This is a continuation of the discussion we've had. This is a resolution accepting the map plan and report for the Wildwood Sewer District connection to the Village of Wappinger Falls Sewer System. Mr. Moot, would you like to comment on that? Refresh the board and what's that issue here?
Sure, so we've been kind of updating the board as this project has progressed. The town was offered a $2.5 million grant from EFC. The grant notice, I believe, came in November of 2018. The EFC provided a checklist of items that are required to move the funding and secure the grant. We have worked through most of 2019 on the items on their checklist. However, there are two big items. One is accepting our map plan and report with a resolution, and then having a resolution with a, I guess we already have an intent to bond, but it would be a resolution to bond up to the $6.2 million. We have proposed our map planning report, which basically looks at a conceptual project, has a conceptual construction budget, factors in contingencies, and basically boils all the costs down to what the user rate would be. We reported that currently for Wildwood only, the user rate would be about $548 per year. That's the operation and maintenance cost. That's currently what they pay. My understanding is they haven't had to bear a capital cost in quite some time, but the capital cost would come due for this Wildwood project. We looked at it as the projected cost of the project with no funding would result in an annual increase of about $581 per user. We did apply for several grants. The one grant that is approved is considered an intermunicipal grant because it considers Woodhill Green, which is in the village. So that's an important component to this project and what basically helped recognize it for that type of grant. So we applied for 2 other grants. We did not get them on this last December 2019 round. We provided the best case scenario, which if all grant monies were to come to fruition, the annual increase per user would only be $20.91. Currently, we looked at the project then with accounting for the $2.5 million grant on the table right now. That's due to expire in a letter that I have by the end of January if we don't basically provide these resolutions to keep the viability of the grant alive. Looking at the project cost, just considering the $2.5 million grant, it's about an annual increase of $349 per user. We were still trying to look at other avenues to reduce the cost to the user, and the final approach that we took was incorporating what's called excess capacity into our design, and that's a legal avenue for the town to help bear some of the project costs with the intent that future users could connect to this infrastructure, in which case the town would be reimbursed for their additional costs incurred. So by building in the excess capacity and the town taking on, I think it was about 1.9 million of the share of this project, would reduce the user rate to about $232 per month.
But the
Or per
initial,
year, I'm sorry.
but the initial bond would still have to be the 6.2 less 2.5, because you can't assume that the 1.9 is going to be paid back at any point in time, right, until you get users to actually sign up and start paying that?
So
So the town would be on the hook for roughly $3.3 million
If we don't get other funding.
if we don't get under funding.
So let me address some of the issues with respect to the bonding process. So the $6.2 million is the maximum cost of the project. That does not include any grant funding in it at all.
Got it.
So, and that's because should the grants expire, you can still go forward with the funding. So whenever there's a project that's being proposed and there's grant monies that are involved, one of the things is that the prudent course is to bond for what is anticipated to be the maximum cost of the project, not including any grants received. The reason why you do that is because if you adopt a lesser amount and you go over, then you have to come back and adopt a new resolution to increase the amount that's borrowed. So all of this is estimates right now. So it's estimates as far as what the costs are, it's estimated as how much the borrowing would be, it's estimated as to how it's paid back. Because right now we don't have any construction numbers, we don't have any final grant numbers, so everything at this point in time is a guess. It's the engineer's best guess as to what these costs would be. It's the best guess on what the debt repayment would be based on current and near-term financial situations. So this is all just a guess. Now, having said that, once you adopt a bond resolution for $6.2 million, in all likelihood, the town's not going to borrow that money for probably at least 2 years. So the time to pay it back does not start to run until such time as it's borrowed. So for purposes of Right now, in order to get any funding from EFC, we have to adopt a bond resolution. A bond resolution does not obligate the town to borrow the money. It merely authorizes the town to do so if it so chooses. That bond resolution is subject to a 30-day permissive referendum period. If some residents of Wildwood or the town, in this case since we're going townwide, file a petition to challenge that resolution, then it could be subject to a referendum. And in that case, the voters would then have a chance to vote on whether or not they do that. Or the town has the option, the town board would have the option of rescinding the resolution. So by voting on this resolution right now, you're not committing the town to spend any money at all. You're just providing the ability to do so in the future. The ultimate obligation to spend the money does not come into play until such time as the construction documents have been prepared and it's gone out to bid, and at that point in time, the bonds would be issued. At that point in time, when the construction project would come back to this board, and it would be, say it's $6.1 million to do the construction work, and then, we have the 2.5 that's on the table. But again, all of those, so at the time the rubber meets the road when you're going to borrow the money, you will have the final numbers before you.
So let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
So question number one is, what happens to the engineering charges that we incur between now and when the actual digging of the ground, so when the bond actually goes into place? Because you guys are going to charge engineering charges to figure out where it's got to go and everything else. So aren't we paying some of that money today already for you to draw up the drawings? So where is that money being paid out of today? And shouldn't that reduce your overall cost of the 6.2 million?
Say that again?
So if we're paying for engineering charges today for all the workup that you're doing today, number one, where's the money being charged to? Number two, shouldn't that reduce your overall bill of the 6.2 million? Because you're already paying some money up front today.
Yes. The answer is yes. That's been, again, the town board adopted probably 2 years ago now at least, if not longer, an intent to bond resolution. And what that intent to bond resolution was, it said that any design costs, any legal costs, any investigatory costs regarding to this project would be recaptured and could be paid out of the bond that's ultimately issued. I believe the costs currently have been paid from Wildwood, from the Wildwood district. I'm not sure, we'd have to check with Frederick with respect to that. But they should have been charged against the Wildwood district because they're the people who are benefiting, at least at this point in time, with respect to the project.
So for a minimum of 2 years, the town would be responsible for paying back the bond until the users are actually...
No, there's no bond issue.
There's no bond issue.
No, but when you go through and you start the process, right, so you're approving tonight 6.2 potentially. When you actually start the work, right, the customers or the end users of that are not going to be paying that up front. You won't get them till later on after you've, put the pipes in the road and everything else, right? So the town's got to incur all that expense up front, correct?
So as far as the construction costs, the town will not incur those costs until the bonds are issued. But with respect to the design costs, the town will incur those costs, but I believe right now, I assume Frederick has created a capital account for purposes of that and is funding that capital account from fund balance in that district.
And one of the grants that we weren't approved for yet is for design costs and other costs. We will be going back in, we'll be meeting actually with the authorities, including we have a trip up to Albany to discuss the bigger issue on the 5th, correct, Tim? Because again, you'll recall that this whole matter originated because we have these letters from the DEC saying that the plant is basically in non-compliance and we're facing $37,500 in fines if we don't remediate. And the solution is to get it in the tri-muni. It's not to rebuild the plant, because that's going to be a huge price tag if even doable. So we are having further discussions about the additional monies, including design cost, reimbursement.
But I think for planning purposes, you have to assume right now, all you have in hand is the
Correct.
original 2.5 million. You don't
Correct.
have the additional, but again, we've got time to go ahead and try to get the additional
Correct.
grants to lower the
Right.
cost. Okay.
That's correct.
So this is a project that's got to get done. I mean, we can either do it now or
Later at a huge
in the
cost.
near future. But if we don't proceed with it now, we lose $2.5 million of funding, correct?
Basically.
Okay. My suggestion, because we're talking about this, we know there's other projects backed up against this. We as a board have to have a workshop where we sit down and discuss these as a whole. Because we look at projects one at a time, and we don't say, wow.
Well, we've had several workshops,
saying
which Mr. Mood has done for
Right,
us.
we need to have another one with
Yeah.
what's sitting in front of us, because this is just one of many, as we talked last
Agreed.
time.
Agreed.
So
We'll
that's just a
continue that
suggestion,
process,
yeah.
based on before, but we do need to decide tonight, or we lose within days, the funding. This is,
So does the grant expire at the end of the month?
that's all.
I have a letter, like before, I had a phone call saying, hey, reminder, you have till the end of January to give us like your updated list. And I went through the file and I actually have it in writing.
It's already been extended, actually.
And I bought some time.
We
I mean,
bought some
it
time.
was good faith on our behalf to set this meeting up. I mean, we sort of did it with their availability, and it turned out, next week was their availability, which is beyond the
Right.
January 31st cutoff, but.
Okay. I agree with Councilman Phillips. I think we need a capital plan for the next 3 to 5 years, because we do have a lot of major projects coming on board, and we got to
Correct.
figure out how we're going to pay for them.
Right. No, that's what they've already set up, that process. and-
So in one of the things
Explain
that we had discussed, that I had mentioned last meeting, but it bears repeating in the context of this, the debt service for water and sewer projects do not have to be paid on the tax bill.
Correct.
They can be paid on the water and sewer bill as part of the O&M expenses. So, while, certain, and again, water and sewer has its own independent income stream by virtue of the charges, whereas, parks or highways do not have an independent, the only funding stream they have is tax money. So,
But you can't put it on their tax bill or their water and sewer bill until they're actually using the service.
correct. Right.
When does the H1 get reimbursed?
Well, again, one of the things is, in this case, a good chunk of this is Woodhill. So once Woodhill goes through the process of either extending or creating a district, then at that point in time, it would be, charged at that point in time. And I think we fully anticipate probably by the time the bond is issued, Woodhill will make its determination
Right.
as to how to go forward on this project.
But they will reimburse the A fund,
Yes.
and in one lump sum or an annuity?
Well, again, what would happen would be, they would be charged, the debt service would be appropriated based on who uses the improvement. That's the way, the law provides it. So whatever users are using the system, and if there's excess capacity and nobody's using it, that would be a general town charge. But by the time this project, 3 years from now, probably all of that would be worked out. So at the time the debt service comes to be paid, there will probably be users signed up to be paying that debt service.
As a lump sum or as an annuity? And if it's an annuity, over what term?
Term of the bond.
30
So-
years.
30 years.
It's a 30-year bond, so it's going to be apportioned by,
How do they pay back the A fund? The money has to be somewhat of an escrow account for the Wildwood and the Woodhill Green Sewer District. When do they pay back the A fund for the money that they lent them?
it's going to be in the debt service. So they'll be paying their pro rata share of the debt service. Unless the A fund advances money out of fund balance, which is not anticipated, But if it's coming out of debt service, the way you would do it is you'd apportion the debt service to whoever's using it.
And that will also change by any other funding.
Correct, and we'll
Acquired,
renew the
right.
funding proposals and probably have a good chance of getting some of that. Because what we're doing with also the village's support is we're arguing that because this plant puts its effluent into the creek, then this is a much bigger issue than just purely a water and sewer district expansion or change, because we're helping to address the watershed problems that are quite significant. As we know, there's top 3 feet of sludge have all sorts of contaminated materials in it, including coming from the 25 sewer plants up and down the creek. So Tim, we've been working on that, and purpose of a meeting is also to explain the bigger context that exists behind us shutting down this and moving it into Tri-Muni.
And what gets determined here, we're all talking about financing and the expiration of potential funding. Side to that, parallel, is DEC with their notice of violations. Right. And I've had to extend when the town needs to respond to them, which they gave me a reprieve till next month. I think it's February 21st. We have to go on record with a time frame commitment to DEC on how our groundwork is laid out.
And Tim actually did a great job of that. Originally, it was January the 8th.
Well, originally it was October.
Well, yes, you're right, and then we pushed it off to that. So,
how much would it cost to replace the package plant for Wildwood?
So we did a engineer report. I don't have that right in my fingertips here, but I can resend it to everybody. So we were tasked as the first step toward this was to evaluate options. And in our engineer report, we looked at upgrading or changing out this plant. We looked at several different kind of combinations, and the determination was that this was the most cost effective. I mean, we also worked with Mike Tremper and his buy-in on it, and he also agreed. I don't know, I can look here.
But he felt that it was not doable on that small footprint of land, the nature of, and there, as I recall, it was somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 million, perhaps.
I think that's
right, Tim?
Yeah, I'm trying to
sounds right.
there.
That's what it's.
Yeah, that's what
it's a big number.
But also, a question is, could we do it on the footprint and its proximity to the creek?
Well, there was another issue regarding whether or not the DEC would permit
Yes.
a discharge on the creek.
Well, they put it in the notice of violation that they want the town to look at getting away from discharging to the Wappinger Creek and going to a larger body like the Hudson River. I mean, they put that right in the notice of violation.
Because one of the things.
Where does the creek flow to? The Hudson River, so.
Well, but.
I mean,
One of the problems is that there's an intermediate the Wappinger Lake is now on a 303 B list. So it's considered to be an impaired body. So
there's 20 plus discharges north of us.
25 total on the creek.
My number one concern here through this process has been what is going to be the impact on the average user. And when we adopted the resolution 2 years ago with the intent to bond, we were talking about a lot more grant funding than we are right now. Now, I don't want to lose the $2.5 million here that we have locked in, but ultimately, if we're looking at a $595 increase without the grant funding, these people only pay $548 per year. And I'm not going to be supporting something that's going to be that type of an impact on the end user.
So I think, as Mr. Moran said, Bill, is that we can rescind ultimately if those grant funds don't come in. And to whatever the period of time is.
I mean, the problem then is, DEC expects a fix.
Right.
But I will support moving this resolution forward to maintain the $2.5 million that we have locked in. But I think we have to be careful here as we proceed because we're exposing all of these users to a significant increase.
Understood.
And as for the Woodhill Greens component, do we even know if they're going to opt in? I mean, that's an HOA, is it not?
They've expressed a strong interest because they have a failing, septic, system there. So we have to start negotiations once we've bought our time.
I believe they're under the same pressure from DEC that we are.
So Tim, of the 6.2 million, how much is the Wood Hill part? It's about 700,000 of the 6.2?
I'd have to go back and break it down, but that was basically
Yeah,
the
you're right.
difference. Yeah,
No, that's about.
it was like
So
close
it's
to
a-
a
it's
million.
only-
I
It's
think.
another, I know 700,000 is a lot of money, but
Because
We're
we would
certainly
be
the more
building
significant piece.
the pipeline down through them,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they buy in, then they can incur part of the cost of that, and of course, they'll have to do their own laterals.
and in your calculations, you have nothing assumed in there for Wood Hill, correct? Paying any kind
No,
of,
we started out trying to do the big picture, but because they're an HOA and
Right.
it's too nebulous, so we
So-
tried to
so if anything,
remove
if you
them.
got new users on there from Wood Hill, that would even decrease the cost more?
Theoretically.
Okay.
But they could be by unit versus ad valorem.
Right.
So there could be an inequity
Well, no, they have to, sue's gotta be based on benefit.
based on benefit unit?
Yep.
Okay, so the benefit unit rate right now is $136.97 per quarter for Wildwood. Theoretically, if you increase the number of units in that district, is what we're looking at doing, increasing the total number of units or marrying two
Right.
districts?
Correct.
So those are the numbers I'd be interested in seeing when we get to that point, but I don't want to belabor this. I'll support this so we can stay in the running for the
Right.
grant funding, but I just want to make sure we keep our eye on the ball, that's all.
And to that point, just because you adopt the map plan and report now, does not mean it can't change in the future.
Right.
So
Okay.
this is a
That's right.
work in progress.
So
So as
this
far
I'd
as,
like to move the
I move it, I
motion.
second.
Okay, you second, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion, passes.
And Jim, thank you, and
Yes.
Tim, thank you for being very clear and getting this moving.
And we'll be
for our
reporting back to
people.
the board
Thank you.
how our next round of meetings go. That will take place before the next board meeting. Steve, can you put on the
Put
heat?
up a little bit.
Turn up a little bit, the thermostat over there. Okay, the next item is, the companion resolution, basically. Resolution 2020-58 in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Wildwood Sewer District in the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York, order calling a public hearing. This is related to, what we had just discussed about the need to have a public hearing on this.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
just for the record, what's the date on the
Date,
public
yeah, what's the
hearing?
date?
Today?
No,
For what? Thank you, Steve.
This would be 30 days.
oh, there's a blank down there. So it said town on February blank. So Jim,
So what's the
we have
next?
30 days?
Well, no, it's gotta be on at least, you're right. Do we have we have a second? 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need to amend that just to put in the date, or is this sufficient?
Well, just put it for the record.
Just
it's
put it for the
24th,
record, 24th.
And that'll be published
Okay,
and
thank you.
posted.
Okay, thanks. The next item is Resolution 2020-59. This is approval of the correspondence log.
I approve, I move
I'll second.
resolution 59.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item would be items for consideration and new business by the board.
I just had one item here for the board. When we held the Town First Responder Awards back in September, I forgot to submit the receipts. It's $207 for plaques that we issued out. In the past, we paid for that out of town board contingency, so if the board would reach consensus on reimbursing me that amount, I would greatly appreciate it.
How much was that again? Bill?
$207.
Okay.
I move
I'll second.
reimburse Councilman
Okay,
Deal.
motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next would be a motion executive session. We have some,
Before we do that,
okay,
I
sure.
have one too, but go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to take a moment and remind everybody that today is the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Take a second to remember all the poor people, the fathers, the mothers, the children, and the people that did survive that awful, awful time. And let us all join together and hope that it never happens again.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, Al?
So I have two items I want to talk about. So first one is, and I've talked to Steve, Jessica, and Mike Sheehan. What I'd like to see is an inventory of all the assets they have. I'd like to see it for buildings and grounds, highway, recreation. I'd like to see it by the end of March, if possible. Again, I think it's important that we understand what assets we have, what we own, and what's out there.
Well, as I mentioned to you, Al, this is already largely done. It's work in progress.
Okay.
We have the highway, we have the buildings and grounds. I'm getting it also for computer and IT. That's going to be submitted shortly. I've also asked for the department heads to also put together, that's new. And also we'll be getting the one on the historical archives as far as the record. So that actually should be in our hands, a completed booklet well before that.
Okay, great, thank you. And I have
Yes.
one more thing
So,
I want to do
just
too. Yes,
for
sir.
the- At least for the highway, there's a requirement that annually, the highway superintendent make an inventory to the town board as part of the, his submission with the budget.
Okay.
So,
So do we actually have that someplace?
We've already gotten the inventory in hand. It needs to be a submission because you
so
wanted to review it. so-
every end of
Right.
August, beginning of
Right.
September, there's there's an
Right.
inventory of all the trucks and all the.
Right.
Okay,
all
so
the
who-
equipment.
Sue, who has that list? Because
I don't know about the old one. I have a new one that I have just
Okay.
received, and so then we'll pull that together.
I think
for
the
formal
entire
submission.
board needs to see that list.
Yes, that's the plan.
One more thing, we have a couple of openings on the planning and zoning. I know, Dick, at the inauguration, you had mentioned this. We have a couple of positions open. I think that we should advertise in the Southern Dutchess News, try to do interviews in the next couple of weeks, and see if we can't get those positions filled.
Agreed.
I think in addition to that, are the requirements that are necessary to be on both of those boards, including the education and attendance? And I would like to know the complete listing of everybody's expiration date on both the zoning board and the planning board, and I think this town board should receive that. Please, thank you.
So how do we get it advertised, Joe? Do you do that, or how do we need to do that? How do we get it advertised so we know, and we should schedule a date that we're
Jim?
going to interview people, but let's try and make it a non-board meeting night, because we seem to be here till 11, 12 o'clock. We don't want to keep folks here that late, so if we could do that, that would be great.
You certainly can, make a motion to advertise, I guess, the
Can you
one thing.
put something together, what is required for both the planning board and the zoning board? Send it to us, and then we can send it to wherever we want to advertise it. I'm sorry?
It's a volunteer board, there really is no prior requirements.
Well, I think Angela's talking about once you're on the board, as far as,
The attendance.
right.
The requirements, when the meetings are, this sort of information, they need to know about. They can't apply and say, oh gee, I can't do this.
Absolutely.
That information is very important
Okay, I'll put something together.
for both of them, please. Thank you.
So again, I'll ask my question. How do we advertise it? And how do we get it there so people know? Again, we have,
In the past, it was word of mouth. I don't know.
But we can also put it on our website.
Yeah,
You
we'll
can put
do
it on
that.
your website, you can put it on your social media.
Why don't we put it on the website? 'Cause
Social
right-
media.
Currently, we have 2 openings on the zoning, and you only have 3 people now, so we have 1 person out, and you can't have a meeting, and then I think there's 1 opening on planning right now, so.
But the information, Barbara, if you could send that, and then we can figure out how we get this resolved.
Okay,
Very
but
quickly.
we should pick a date when we want to interview people. We should pick a date. Again, it's not a non-town board meeting. I have no problems doing that.
I agree, I don't either. March? Is that too far out? I mean, February is pretty.
Yeah, and we're gonna,
Yeah. So,
I say we advertise in the month of
Right.
February, right? Because February
Right.
starts in a week.
right,
Advertise, and it's, we've done different things in the past. We can send a press release out to the Southern Dutchess News. You as a councilman can write a letter to the editor. Anyone can write a letter to the editor asking for those to contact you. We have social media. We have the fact that the board meeting is on television right now. It's going to play 100 times.
Right.
So anyone that's interested should reach out to the respective council member or the town supervisor. And I would say you have to be a resident of the town, and you need to send a resume so that we have some sort of documentation.
And we
And
can do
yes, there
interviews.
are attendance expectations, there is educational expectations, which we will get that information and share.
I think it's very important. I agree, and we'll set a date up in March.
Yeah, because I think the
Because we're gonna have to
ZBA
have an
needs
end
somebody.
date that everybody has to
Right.
get this information in.
I agree. I think what the councilman
By
was
the
saying,
end
though,
of
is that
February.
we can't even afford to lose one person on the ZBA right now.
Correct.
I agree,
Yeah.
but
So, I'll say this again, I say it every couple of years. And one of the ways, many municipalities have alternates. Years ago, I believe Joe Ruggiero was supervisor, it was considered. But one of the things, as far as planning and zoning board alternates, we have a 7-member planning board, we have a 5-member zoning board. For those type of numbers, municipalities typically have 2 alternates on the planning board and 1 alternate on the ZBA. In essence, it would be your bench, I won't call them minor league, but, be your bullpen. So to the extent that, somebody doesn't show up, you can have an alternate that comes in. One of the things that having an alternate that comes in, you then don't worry, it's not as pressing a concern regarding filling a vacancy. I know I've drafted alternate, in order to do that, you have to adopt a local law to change the town code regarding those positions, but again, this issue comes up, again and again. Again, it's something that if the board would like, we could submit the language, we could submit the local law for consideration, but what that would do is that would in essence, give you 2 people who would, and alternates receive the same training. They may have less of a standard regarding attendance. Some municipalities will kind of call them and say, I've got enough people tonight, I don't need an alternate. But that's, one of the options that gives the town a little bit more flexibility in the future. A town board doesn't have an obligation to promote an alternate to the main board, but it's certainly an option, and at least it gives you, some people who are trained who could, fill in as needed on the board, or if there's a vacancy in the future, you could certainly promote the person from an alternate to a full board member.
what other towns use that?
Town of Poughkeepsie, town
'Cause
of
I-
Beekman, town of Unionvale, Pleasant Valley.
I don't think Pleasant Valley even pays their people.
No, but they use the old.
Right, well, that's the other
Okay.
side of this. I don't want to get too deep into this,
No,
but
I agree.
when we start talking about alternates, we restructured the stipends a few years back for
Right.
the active members. So if you're going to have alternates, you also have to consider that impact budgetarily as well.
Right.
We have had this conversation
Yeah.
every couple of years, and really, it's a philosophical discussion. I mean, do we want to go towards having an alternate bench, or do we not? Because what has happened in some towns is the alternates on a board that's well-attended, they just sit there and
Right.
and don't have any say at all unless they get moved up to the table. So it's probably a discussion for a future workshop meeting.
I agree.
But in the meantime, I think the priority is let's fill the spots that we have so that we have full boards operating in the first quarter.
Certainly, and that's the first priority. Obviously, you have to fill the vacancies, but
I have a question, for the
sure.
board, zoning board and planning board, the term is for how many years?
planning board's 7 years because it's a
And that's
7-member
across,
board.
and that's across all towns, or is there,
You could theoretically
we could
change it
change that, correct?
by local law, but basically the way the statute 271 is the statute that deals, Town Law 271 creates a planning board, and what it says is that the length of term is the number of years that.
number of members?
Number of members of the board. Same thing for the ZBA is 267, I believe, so it's the same thing. So
But
if you
that
have
could be
a
changed.
5-member board, you have 7-year term.
But it could be changed.
It could be.
Okay.
But what happens if a board member's term expires and they have not been filled? That position has not been filled.
Technically, I believe the controllers, the New York State Attorney General has advised that they're a holdover
Okay,
So they remain in that position?
until the vacancy is filled.
okay,
Now,
thank you.
keep in mind, the last zoning board meeting, I had 3 members.
Mhm.
And one of them not shown up. And
Right,
they
right.
canceled and I had a public hearing. The planning board has 7 members, but only 4 members were available the other night.
Mhm.
So sometimes I have a problem getting people to tell us when they're not coming, so we don't know until that last
Mhm.
moment.
Are the members of these boards complying with the attendance requirements that were set forth?
I'll send you a list of.
Because that's something we should look at.
Yeah, we should look at attendance and also education for all of them.
So
Both
I'll
boards.
I'll make one comment regarding
Thank you, Barbara.
vacancies in the zoning board of appeals. To the extent that someone is statutorily prohibited from serving on the zoning board of appeals, that person is not a holdover.
So what it would be?
He's
is-
talking about me, is what he's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes, he is.
Oh, right, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for clearing that, making it.
And we can learn all about this at the Association of Towns.
There you go.
Yes, we can.
Kevin, did you have something you wanted to say real quick? I saw your hand up before.
I think typically, ads for government positions are put into the one ads. I'm pretty sure, that would be an official request, a governmental request. I believe you could put it into the one ads.
I've seen them there too.
I don't even know what want ads are.
Yeah.
Oh, so we'll look into it. We'll have
Classified? They
multiple
still have that?
sources. Yeah, Yeah.
The boomers read those.
we'll do multiple.
The free legal
All right,
notices.
so do you now want a motion? to
Yeah,
executive
so
session?
I have a motion in executive session to discuss legal items, some litigation matter, and some other contract issues. Okay, we have a
Okay.
motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, we'll adjourn for the executive session.